The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The season, the 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great.
Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Well, gee, that's just a mood killer, Casey. I mean, my gosh, just right off the bat, just dunk on us, and then we can't even say anything back, so we just have to deal with it. But you know what? It's your birthday.
It is.
So we'll let it slide this time. Happy birthday, Casey McAllister, everybody.
Thank you.
The big
2-7.
2-7, everybody. He's 27.
Closer to 30 than I am 20, which is, 20. That was a while ago.
Could have said that last year.
I'm closer to 30 than I am 25 now, which is a little more scary, a little more real.
Thanks.
You're almost a halfway.
I'm 35,
Almost
thanks.
halfway.
Almost a halfway.
35, huh?
Hey, let me say this. I'd like to be the first person to wish you a happy birthday.
Yeah, because I never said happy birthday. I just said it's your birthday.
Correct. So
Yeah.
happy
You're-
birthday.
You're wishing me a happy birthday.
Yeah.
No one's wished me a happy birthday.
I
They just
wish
said
you.
happy. Yeah.
That's fair.
When you wish upon a star, I wish that Casey has a happy birthday.
Well, thank you, Elliot. I appreciate that.
But we got to get this show on the road. Strippers are going to be here at noon.
Oh,
so
my God.
we got to keep this rolling. We can't, we can start the show late. We just can't end the show late because, I mean, every dollar counts. Every minute counts. All right, I'm just saying. But off and rolling here on a Tuesday. Sam LeCure, we're going to talk Reds with him coming up. Fingers crossed, right? Yeah. I hope, right?
We'll see.
Yeah, but he's going to join us coming up. We'll be talking some Reds with him. Tee Higgins and the tag, you're it. I mean, we kind of... This isn't a surprise, or is it? We'll get to that coming up around the corner, and we'll talk a little college football to close out as well. So we got a ton to get into over the next couple of hours, but we'll, of course, shoot it over to our guy, Elliot, for Elliot's Headlines, ladies and gentlemen.
Score updates, breaking news, local and national headlines, whatever's going on in the world of sports, Elliot has you covered. Off the Bench brings you Elliot's Headlines.
Good call. Good call. It's going to be a surprise. You got to be feeling it.
Right, yeah.
College basketball yesterday. Not a lot of it. 19th ranked Arizona went on the road. They beat Baylor 74-67. Third ranked Duke. They blew out Virginia 80-62. And tonight, Xavier, the Musketeers, fight for their season. They take on Butler at Cintas. Tip off at 8 p.m. on the Peacock.
Oh.
How about that? A little Peacock action
Very
for the
fun.
Xavier Musketeers.
Very fun.
NHL, which really isn't NHL, but asterisk NHL. Team Canada beat Finland to advance to the Four Nations final, and they will be playing the United States. They had already clinched. I asked Jacob because I really don't know. Did they tank, or is there a tank? I don't think they tanked.
Well, they did because we lost.
Okay, so they did because we lost.
Right,
Because the
it
United
doesn't
States
count,
lost
yeah.
to Sweden yesterday 2-1, but the game was irrelevant. They were already in the finals. So the United States will take on Canada in a rematch Thursday.
We were without
Thursday at
Austin
8 p.m.
Matthews, without Matthew Chuck.
Okay.
Brady Chuck got hurt, missed most of the second period and half the third. So whether they were trying or not, I obviously think they were trying, but they were, hampered a little bit. They'll have those guys back for Thursday's game against Canada. So hopefully they win that one because there was a lot of stuff said after Saturday night, and that game just doesn't matter if you lose on Thursday.
That's right.
So.
That's right. Major League Baseball, Vladdy and the Blue Jays, they failed to reach an agreement on an extension, and he said he's not negotiating mid-season, which means he will become a free agent when the season ends. So it's looking like the Blue Jays tried their hardest this year to show Vladdy that he was going to stay, or that he should stay, and we're going to sign all these players. And it turns out he was just never going to stay. I don't know what they offered him. Based on what they were offering everybody else, I'd imagine it was a good deal. I can't imagine they were
We don't actually know what they were offering everyone else.
Do not.
We just know they were very, very close to everyone else.
They were close to everybody except for Vladdy.
Right.
Who said outright that we're just going to wait.
Yeah.
We're going to be waiting. So bad times if you're a Blue Jays fan.
So you don't think it's money? You don't think because
I don't think it's money.
Because you're right. I mean, they were in on. They weren't really the favorites to land Juan Soto, but they were one of the teams that were trying to reach a deal with him. And then the big one, I mean, they were close, I guess. Weren't they one of the finalists to land, even though we all knew he was going to be a Dodger? Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
They were one of the favorites, or one of the finalists, I guess, because a lot of teams were in it, and then they just checked out once the money got too high. But they were continuing to battle out the Dodgers.
Sasaki dragged him along till the end.
Yeah.
With the Padres and Dodgers.
So they were trying to, not only do they try to land, I mean, here we are as Reds fans, mad that our team never goes after any big name. They were getting after every big name you could think of, struck out on all of them, and then are going to end up losing the big name that they have on their roster already.
That's right.
I don't know what's worse. Our team not going for any of those names or going for those names and not being able to land any of them. That's a pretty raw deal for the Blue Jays.
Bad deal indeed. College football playoff. Guess what? It's growing. It's going to go to 14 or 16 teams. At least they're trying to make it 14 or 16 teams. So if you didn't think that 8 was good, how was it 8 or 10? It was 10. Right?
It was 12.
It was 12?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Too many.
I thought. Why did I think it was an 8 team?
I don't know. That's what it should have been.
12-team playoff?
Oh yeah.
God, man, what a season it was.
Sure was.
All right, so now it's 14 or 16 allegedly. So we'll see what they do to fix this because it's.
SEC and Big Ten are the ones arguing for this. It would give them more automatic qualifiers, and they're gaining momentum. It could happen as soon as next year, but that is doubtful. It'll probably be in the 2026 season at the earliest.
Okay.
I love college football, but college sports are dumb. The whole thing's dumb.
It's over? You're canceling college sports?
No, I'm going to keep watching, but the concept is stupid. Like the Big Ten and SEC, I get it because it's the two biggest money draw conferences out there. Like, they're so dominant. They're like, we want 4 auto bids, and they're gonna get it. And then there's gonna be the Big 12 and everyone else like, well, okay, I guess we're happy with our 1 bid, and then we're just all going to accept it and move forward. It's just a weird thing. Like I said, if you had to explain to non-sports fans, explain to me college football, explain how you make the playoff, explain why they would get multiple auto bids and the other conferences won't. None of it makes sense. I don't know how we all fell in love with college football or college sports in general because none of it absolutely makes sense whatsoever. But I'm still going to watch. I'm just saying. It's a very weird concept.
Well, I mean, it's evolved. I mean, whether you want to say it's devolved or evolved, I think it's either way, it's changed, and it's going to keep changing as long as these players keep getting paid because it's a professional sport. I mean, it's hard to say, the quote, they're just kids. They're just kids out there when they're going to make
just millionaire kids.
They're making more than pretty much anybody that cheers for them. So, yeah, I'm going to keep watching college sports. It's still college sports to me. College football will end up and we'll see if the NCAA ever goes away. I imagine it's going to go away in the coming years, and when that happens, then maybe you're going to be right, and it's going to be like, all right, this isn't college football at all. This isn't even remotely the same thing. But I do think that's the way you make it better. So there's a lot that's going to happen. Anyway, moving on to the NFL, and we're going to talk about it next segment, but James Rapien yesterday came out with the news that the Bengals will be putting the old tag on Tee Higgins today. At least that's what we think. That's what we're pretty sure it's going to happen.
They will be putting the tag on Tee Higgins by the deadline if they can't reach an extension.
Which is today?
March 4th.
Oh, the deadline?
It opens today.
Okay, it opens today.
So they plan on tagging him if the
see.
deadline can't be reached because that'll just give them more time to
Makes
try to
more
reach
sense.
that extension.
That makes much more sense.
It could not be until March 3rd or March 4th in the morning, but James Rapien did report yesterday that is the plan, and we didn't know that for sure until yesterday.
But those are your headlines.
All right, Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers, off and rolling here into Tuesday. Coming up, we'll be joined by Sam LeCure here in about 15 minutes or so. He's heading to the airport. He said at 10:30 he'll hop on with us. Again, for those listening in Dayton, obviously the show live earlier in the day. But 10:30 he'll hop on with us unless he's having some issues at security, and then he'll join us at 11. So either way, he said he'd pop on with us at some point here in the next half hour or so. So let's pick up with that Tee Higgins conversation because a lot's being made of it, and what should we make of it is the big question, and we'll discuss that more when we come back. This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, happy birthday, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett
Casey.
with you here.
I'd like to be the first to wish you a happy birthday.
Well, you already were the first.
For next year.
I
think this makes it the second person.
I want to make it very clear for those, because like on the radio there are segments, right? So there'll be a whole segment, then commercials. Kinner just acted like he was the first one. For the new people that are listening right now, for the new segment, this segment, I'd also like to be the first to wish you a happy birthday.
I texted Casey this morning before his wife wished him happy birthday.
Doesn't count. I wish that counted, but it doesn't count. I'm sorry.
He texted me and said I was first.
Doesn't count, and you know it doesn't count. But I was first, and I'm happy to be first. I wanted to make it known that I'm first, though.
I love that he mansplained to the listeners segment 1, segment 2.
Yeah,
That's
a
my
little
favorite.
peek behind the curtain.
Yeah.
You're not wrong, though.
That's how it works. I'm a radio pro, baby.
You used to work in radio before this, right? It's been a minute for that one, but it's the rumor on the street. But James Rapine yesterday kind of, I don't know if broke the news, but we had released the news, kind of confirmed it, that the Cincinnati Bengals plan to use the franchise tag on Tee Higgins. And, of course, that was the big talking point yesterday. So much is being made about the Cincinnati Bengals. And I noticed, I see Goodberry and I see some others getting kind of defensive. I saw Goodberry tweet earlier this morning that on the radio, that the Bengals are, how are they going to get this done and getting defensive and stuff, and that, can it be done? That the Bengals are going to have to work magic to get this done. And he's sitting there saying, well, he goes, it's not going to be magic. He goes, it can be done and all this. And I go, I think we got to stop being defensive about it. I think we all know it can be done. We've seen examples throughout the league. The problem is, until we see the Bengals do it, there is going to be doubt. There is going to be concern. There is going to be people questioning, can it be done? I don't think there's people out there that are saying there's no way it can be done. I think there's people just strictly questioning, will the Bengals actually get it done? Will they evolve? Will they, do something different that they have never done throughout the existence of the franchise when it comes to, of course, modern-day contracts and being willing to not just spend heavily on one or two players, but go all in on multiple players? This franchise tag announcement yesterday, it would be the second tag on Tee Higgins. I don't think it's as big a news as what we think it is, because I think at least initially right now, all this has done is, and you guys briefly touched on it, I think it's just bought them a little bit more time. Yeah. Time to either get the extension done, a long-term extension, or time to figure out if they're just going to move on from him via trade. Either way, good for the Bengals for not just letting him walk out the door for nothing. The fact that they do plan on tagging him means the Bengals are going to get something. They are either going to get the best number 2 wide receiver in football on a long-term extension, or they are going to get picks in return for him if they move on from him. Obviously, that second option is not going to make a lot of Bengals fans happy, but considering the options, that is the second best option you could have. Because the first option, that's the best one, long-term extension. You lock Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and him long-term, and that's your core. And that's going to be a very tough core to stop and beat, for the remainder of their time together. The second best option is, well, Tee Higgins is not a Cincinnati Bengal, but you at least get some draft capital back in return for him. And when you are a team like the Bengals who needs to plug a lot of holes, draft capital is very important. And then the third option, not even the best option, but the third option is you just let him go. And we now know that third option most likely is not even going to be considered at this point. What do you guys make of this? I didn't think this was as big a news as what people were making it out yesterday. The only thing that it reassured me is he's not walking out the door for nothing. It still doesn't mean it's a long-term thing. I know some are saying that they think that it could be, and obviously it could be. I just still don't know if it is. I'm not confident that is still the direction that the Bengals are going to go in. Do you believe that's the case?
Why it's such a big deal is because of what you said right there. He's not going to walk out the door for free, which is exactly what happened the last time we were in this situation with Jesse Bates.
Yeah.
We tagged him. We didn't get to an extension. He played the year on the tag. They didn't want to double tag him because of the risk of a holdout or whatever else, and he walked out the door for free to Atlanta, and he's been playing great, and we talk about it every week since. So at least they're learning their lessons as we progress through this offseason. The first lesson they had to learn was tag this guy so he doesn't leave for free, and they've learned that. Now, do they learn the lesson that you can't let star players leave the facility? We'll see. Time will tell. But I think this is pretty big news because it tells you already that just from a few years ago, the Bengals are operating differently, and they're doing things a different way, and they're prioritizing keeping these guys around. Jeremy Fowler continued to report last night that the plan behind the scenes for the Bengals is to extend all these guys, and we've known that here for a while, but it seems to be shocking every time anyone in the national media reports that. But any other team in the league would extend these 3 guys. So I don't understand why a lot of people are giving the Bengals an out in terms of, finding ways to explain why they can't or why they shouldn't or why they won't. I think if you're a fan of the Bengals, you should be talking about why they should, why they can, and why there's really nothing holding them back, because anyone else would do it. So why wouldn't the Bengals?
I don't think it's big news because, I mean, if they didn't put the tag on him here and they let him walk like they did with Jesse Bates, I think the franchise should probably be burned to the ground, because that's not how anyone operates outside of the Cincinnati Bengals. Maybe I can't imagine some of the worst teams in the NFL also haven't done that, but it just makes us look like a joke. So I'm very happy that the Bengals did it. They had to do it. The biggest part that I took away was that they are looking to extend him. So it's not like this is not we're gonna put him on the tag and we're gonna trade him right now. This was we're gonna tag, we're gonna give him time, like you guys said, and we're gonna try to work on a deal and keep Tee Higgins in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow and Jamar. That's what the plan is. That's what I took away. Putting the tag on him or planning to put the tag on him does me nothing, because we all knew it should happen, and it probably would happen with almost 100% certainty, because it makes no sense to just let him walk. No sense.
So the tag window starts today through March 4th.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they have not put the tag on him, so it's not like he's officially been franchise tagged yet. It just, obviously Rapin's report comes out that that's the intention of the Cincinnati Bengals. They have until March 4th to make that decision. Not make that decision, but just to announce it and finalize it along those lines. Now, the thing that's interesting about the reporting is because last year is kind of a lot of the similar conversations, right? Like we kind of knew that they were going to franchise tag him, an option to trade him, obviously, but we kind of had a feeling that if they were going to go all in, because remember, a year ago at this time, we felt that this team, when they got Burrow back, it was going to be, we talked about it yesterday, the Super Bowl this team had Super Bowl expectations a year ago at this time. It was just get Burrow back, get him healthy, and this team will be competing for a Super Bowl. We didn't really anticipate all the deficiencies that the team ended up showing throughout the season, of course, so it's a whole other different animal now. But in this article from James Rapine, he does talk about the fact that the why tag him this year versus the why tag him last year. Last year it was, we're going to tag him to go all in for 1 year because they felt that they truly could go get that Super Bowl last year. Obviously, that didn't work out. The why this year, as he refers to in this article, feels different. The why this time he feels is to get a long-term deal done. Is that how you guys feel? Casey, let's go to, I don't know if you guys know, it's Casey's birthday.
It is Casey's birthday. I want to be the first, Casey,
yes,
to wish you
please.
a happy birthday on this program. No one's done it yet on the show, at least. Not this, because, we do segments on the radio. So this segment, just wanted to wish you a happy birthday.
Damn it, I wanted to be the first.
It's all right, maybe next time.
It's impossible. We'll see who wins the first next time.
Next segment, But Casey, at this point, the why for the Cincinnati Bengals, do you feel like the why feels different? James Rapine in this article says the why feels different this time around versus a year ago, where the why just felt like, let's go all in for one more season. We all felt like it was the last run at Tee Higgins in Cincinnati. Oh, yeah. It feels different this time, at least according to James Rapine. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree, and I think many fans feel the same way. I would venture to say the sentiment right now is you tag him to get value out of him, and that's just something that I don't think the Bengals were really necessarily looking at last season. I think that was their all-in move on the season, was to tag T and let him play on that franchise tag. And this year, it feels more like a step to go into an all-in type season where you're extending Chase, you're extending Trey, and you're making other such moves to build up the team with the amount of cap space that they will have available later on. But even if they don't get something done, you tag him because now you're going to get value out of him, which is a step in the right direction in becoming a modern-day franchise, which is all we've really been asking for, is do you have a plan in place that gives you value back in return? And you couldn't have asked for a better move at this point. It was a no-brainer move. You can't let him walk for nothing. And that's what essentially you would have done if you don't tag him. So kudos to the Bengals. They're making a step in the right direction, whether that's re-signing him to a deal, which I think most of us agree that that's what they should do in this room. And if they don't, you trade him for value. So I'm happy with the decision either way.
There was someone on this very program in March of last year during the Arizona spring training trip that said double tagging T and handling a trade or extension next offseason would be the way to go. He was called crazy.
He was called crazy.
Reed said that?
No. Little guy who's down at school at Alabama called in as a guest. Threw it out there as a crazy idea for how to handle the offseason. Yeah, no, tagging T this offseason, like Casey said, it was never really an option because if you hit the open market, we've talked about it a ton, and that's been your argument against T staying in Cincinnati, Kenner, for a long time now, is if he hits the open market, the Bengals aren't going to be able to compete. They aren't. The thing that they have in their back pocket is you get to play with Joe and Jamar, and we're going to keep Trey, and we're going to add to the defense. And this sell of playing for the Bengals and keeping this core together is one of the biggest pieces for them. And they lose a lot of that if he hits the open market. And he's talking to the Patriots with $125 million in cap room, and the Commanders with a rookie contract quarterback and all that stuff. And whether it's right or not, Tee Higgins is not going to get the same price to stay in Cincinnati as he is to go elsewhere. He's just not. That's not how it's going to work. And if he wants to stay, he's going to have to take a little bit off the top. And doing the tag so that the Bengals trade him to, probably somewhere where he doesn't necessarily want to go gives them another bit of benefit in those negotiations.
Yeah, I think that if Tee Higgins and Trey Hendrickson are back next year, you're building onto something that was already good. Like, I know last year was a disaster. I know the year before they failed, but you're still trying to build onto it. Like, you're not, if you get rid of them, you're taking away something that you can't really afford to take away.
Yep.
That's why it's like, I know this isn't the biggest news in the world to tag Tee Higgins, but all of this goes to show that I think they're still up there working. They're still up there working, and that's all I really want to see with my front offices, with my teams. I just want to see them work. I think there will be a deal done because I think there has to be a deal done. It doesn't make sense to take away from this team right now. And we've argued this 100 different times. If we had an escape plan, if we had a Jermaine Burton, if we had more defensive players that had value, then this would be a very easy decision, and you can get as much value as you can out of Tee Higgins and Trey. But that's not what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with a depleted defense that had one of the worst statistical seasons I've ever seen. And that's with the NFL's sack leader in Trey Hendrickson. And on the offense, it was the best offense maybe in the NFL, and Tee Higgins was a part of that offense. Taking those two guys away makes no sense. Extend them both. You have the money.
I'm not in the middle. I don't have a hot take regarding this. I think if they move on from Tee Higgins, I know you guys will be upset. I don't think it's the worst decision to move on from Tee Higgins.
I won't necessarily be upset if they get the right return.
Yes.
I would have been upset if they didn't tag him and he walked. I would have been livid. But if they get the right return in a tag and trade because it doesn't work out with the contract-wise, emphasis on the right return, then I wouldn't be that mad. I think this is how you handle something like this.
Yeah, and because at first the fact that we were even wondering, are they just going to let him walk out? And I think it was one of those two where, of course, if you do win the Super Bowl, because that was the intention of why they, there was a reason Trey Hendrickson requested the trade, and then a little bit before, and Tee Higgins they both said this right before camp started. They just, with all that was on the line heading into this season, Joe Burrow being fully healthy heading into camp, and it just felt like there was a lot of positive mojo heading into preseason, into camp. It was just kind of one of those, before the Jamar Chase thing hit, of course, they both came out and said they just didn't want their contract disputes and their trade requests to be distractions. They just wanted to focus on the task at hand. So it's like they kind of put that behind them and said, let's go all in to win this Super Bowl. If you win the Super Bowl and T walks, you're going to be saying, well, man, what if we would have kept that core together? But at least you had something to show for it. There's nothing you didn't even make the playoffs. There's nothing to show for T coming back. And maybe there's that unfinished business side to T that he wants to come back as well. And I think the other thing too was, like I said, if they end up moving on from him, I'm fine with that at the end of the day. I'm fine if they end up moving on with him, depending on the return, of course. But also if they keep him, I'm fine with that too. I don't think the Bengals can go wrong. Now that this is probably going to be a tag situation, I don't think the Bengals can go wrong moving forward unless they screw up the return. What is that return, though? You said the return has to be right for you to feel good about it. What is that return?
I would be open to a second round and a fourth round or something in that range. A second round, a high second round, and a mid-round pick. I think the Patriots are a team everyone keeps circling in terms of the draft, and they're picking, I believe, fourth in the draft. So their second round pick and their fourth or fifth round pick, I think, would be somewhere in that sweet spot, because you're not just trading Tee Higgins, you're also trading the right to sign him to a $30+ million extension. So you have to take a little bit off the top there. I think Tee Higgins, the wide receiver, is absolutely worth a first round pick. There's no doubt about that. I just don't know if you can get that with the extension they would then have to pay. I do think there's a world where the Bengals put the exclusive tag, or non-exclusive tag, on Tee Higgins this offseason, which is what the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson a few years ago, which allows any team to give you 2 first-round picks for the player. And while I think that would be a crazy ask for Tee Higgins, if he is on that non-exclusive tag, is there any chance a team desperate enough calls and gives 2 ones?
No, not 2 ones. I would venture to say that maybe a first rounder, but that would be the extent of that entire trade package. Two first rounders is crazy. I'd have to go back into the NFL weeds and find guys that got 2 first round picks.
Non-quarterbacks.
Yeah. So I don't think so. I think the best offer you'd probably get is maybe a second and a third, maybe 2 seconds. Maybe that would work. 2 first would be insane.
So do you think
you'd have to do it?
The wide receiver market, and by the way, 45, he just texted, we're going to push it to 45. He's getting through security at the airport now, just a heads up. So do you think that the wide receiver market this offseason, I think, hurts the Bengals, and not just free agent wise, but through the trade market too? Cooper Kupp, is a lot of teams, do we give up 2 second rounders to go after Tee Higgins, or do we just figure out a way to go get Cooper Kupp? Devontae Adams is going to be a free agent. There's a lot of talks out of San Francisco that Deebo Samuel is going to be made available. So it's like, and that's just right now as we sit here in mid-February. I think that list is going to grow longer of potential wide receivers that are available. I don't think the available free agents now are that good. Like we've talked about, like the Amari Coopers and others. But I think that the names that keep entering the fold, does that hurt the Bengals? Does it the fact that you can go get a Deebo, of a Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams? Do you think that hurts the demand that the Bengals could potentially have or get in return for T?
I don't think so.
No,
I think Tee Higgins is comfortably a tier above all the guys you just named. I don't think Cooper Kupp is even close. I think maybe you could say Devontae Adams, you could talk yourself into him having a year or 2 left of elite play somewhere else. But Deebo Samuel, I think, is pretty strictly a gadget guy and needs to have a Shanahan-esque offense with a big brain and a big playbook to get him going to a point where he's a number 1 wide receiver. And I don't know that the other 2 guys have much of a leash left. I think you're getting T at the prime of his career for the start of a long contract. I think that's appetizing to everyone. Any rankings of free agents you see has Tee Higgins number 1, and the next wide receiver isn't coming up for a while. So obviously those guys in trades aren't on those lists, but I still think Tee Higgins would comfortably be a few spots above a Cooper Kupp or a Devontae Adams or a Deebo Samuel. So no, I think teams that want Tee Higgins would still want Tee Higgins.
Yeah, and again, not to mention, the thing that makes T great is not only that he's fantastic at football, is that he's established a good relationship here in Cincinnati. Like, this is somebody who wants to be with Joe and Jamar, and when he's with Joe and Jamar, the offense looks unstoppable. I don't think you're going to get that chemistry with just any wide receiver. I saw Trevor Lawrence was out there either yesterday or the day before with Kay Adams trying to bring Tee Higgins to the Jaguars. And it was just like, no, I think that T wants to be with a guy that he's had years of relationship with, and he wants to stay here and continue that. Nobody wants to leave their job, right? Nobody wants to leave all their work friends and stuff like that and start new somewhere else. If you're able to get a contract that you know you're worth and you get the ability to stay with your guys, then I think you're going to do it. And I think that's a big part of this too. I think we can talk about drafting a wide receiver in here, which the Bengals will have to do eventually, or we can talk about bringing a free agent here. Either way, whoever they bring in is not going to have that immediate impact, that relationship with Joe Burrow and Jamar that Tee Higgins has right now.
See, and don't necessarily disagree with that at all, because money is why he would leave.
Right.
The only reason he leaves is because of
100%.
money.
Yeah.
Because you could also look at it as he could have his cake and eat it too. He can go to Washington and play with a great quarterback over there and get all that money. He can go to Justin Herbert, play with a great quarterback over there, and get all of his money. We're going to find out just how much he values being a part of that core. And by the way, I do not mean if he leaves, like if he ultimately pushes to be traded, right? I do not believe that he doesn't value the relationship with Burrow and Jamar Chase. It's just hey, I want my money, and if you're not going to give me my money, and that's the other thing too, like how much of a cut would he have to actually make? Like, because you could say, okay, instead of 30, you're going to get 27. It's like, okay, you're going to leave over $3 million, but you could also look at the Bengals and say, you're going to let him leave over $3 million?
Correct.
Like, that's always the tug of war I always have. Like, when people brought up, Tom Brady always took less money. He never took anything. He never took a less amount of money that was just egregious. It's not like, oh, you could have got 40 and you took 28. Like, he always just took a couple million less. So that's why I always laughed at that. But if you're a T, I hope you don't leave Cincinnati over $3 million, But at the same time, if you're the Bengals, don't let him leave over $3 million a year, because that's also kind of silly at the end of the day as well.
Yeah, now I do think that's what it would be. I don't think it's any more than $5 million if we're talking about the discrepancy between the Bengals' top offer and what he gets on the open market. There's no way the Bengals are able to even act like they want to keep Tee Higgins around if they're coming in below $26 million. Yeah. I mean, that's not – they have to at least start at what the franchise tag is, which is $26.2. So that's the starting point there, and I can't imagine he's getting any more than 31 or 32 top-end open market. So, yeah, we're talking about, $4 to $6 million range there, $3 to $6 million range there between the Bengals and the top offer. And that's why we've been saying for the longest time now in this city, the Bengals just have to get close. Give them a competitive offer, give them a competitive structure with competitive guarantees, and I firmly believe that he's going to stay.
Now, they have to pay him first before Jamar, right?
I think just chronologically
I think
because of the tag, yeah.
That's what I was going to say. It makes more sense to do it that way. Do you think Trey would be last in all this?
I do, because once you extend T, money then comes into play in terms of cash that you have available and how you're going to be able to do those and timelines. And I think you just have to get Jamar done because you have to get Jamar done.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything really more to say there than, Tee Higgins' timeline is unique because he's a pending free agent and he's so sought after. I think Jamar Chase is just an unnecessary distraction if you don't get that done as quickly as possible.
I agree.
Man, you know what would have made sense? If you would have, I don't know if they considered this. What if, revisionist history, I get it. What if they would have taken care of Jamar last year?
It would have been cool.
And then you wouldn't have to do both this.
It would have been cool. They could have, offered him a contract that wasn't low.
Well, it's almost like don't start the conversation if you're not willing to have it.
But
they did.
They sure did.
They wanted to throw it out there.
See if it sticks.
Hey, you want a bad offer? Here we go.
We'll get back into more of this. Casey, happy birthday. I don't know if anyone's told you happy birthday.
Oh, man.
Yeah. You guys forgot, didn't you?
Yeah.
Dang it. We'll step away for a few moments. Terry Francona, quite the speech giver. I'm going to talk about that when we come back. We'll be joined by Sam LeCure around the corner as well. A lot more to get into. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. All right, and we are back. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Elliot Ruring, Jacob Tissett, and
the birthday boy!
Oh!
Happy to get it first in this segment. Happy birthday, Casey. Thank you for all you do here. We appreciate it very much.
Love you, Casey.
Elliot, are you guys even friends?
I know. I
He
came
still
in
hasn't
last
said it
again.
yet.
Came in last again. I'm going to wait. It's not worth my time unless I'm first, so I'm going to wait.
Oh, man. But we welcome you
I
back.
hope Sam LeCure beats you next segment.
No, he won't. I won't let it happen. I won't let it happen.
All right, we are off and rolling here on I almost said Wednesday, but it's only a Tuesday. You're right, Sam LeCure will join us coming up here in a bit. Charlie Goldsmith covering the Cincinnati Reds over in Goodyear right now, of course. We talked about some of the reports that he put out yesterday. Look, we talked a lot about Terry Francona, obviously. That was such a huge get. And we've talked about the differences. How much of a difference does a manager truly make? We know they make differences, but how drastic are those differences? We feel like Terry Francona can make that drastic difference. Apparently he made this, just insane preseason speech yesterday that got the locker room, got the clubhouse, got the guys just a buzzing. Suter came out and said yesterday that was the best speech he had ever heard and ready to rock ahead of this season. But those little things, it's just those little things that if the players are coming out and saying that they feel it, we have to feel it as well.
I think that if you had to rank the speeches that our guys have heard over the last 2 years between David Bell, Luke Maley, and now Terry Francona, I bet yesterday's speech or whenever the speech was with Terry Francona was so much better that it's scary. No disrespect to the other two guys, but Terry's a leader of men, and this is where you start to get a little bit excited. You start to hear things that the players, the guys in the clubhouse, everybody at spring training, that they're all starting to like Terry Francona. They respect him. They like to work with him. They like to work for him. So this is me as a fan getting excited and saying openly that I was wrong. Sometimes managers make a difference, and I think this manager is going to make a difference. And as we near the regular season here, and about a month away, it's like I have hope. I have hope again, and I didn't have that towards the end of last year. Probably sometime around mid-September, I thought we were the Titanic essentially. But now it's a little bit different. You come into spring with a newfound love for the Reds, and hopefully they pay off this year.
Yeah, it's everything everyone was mad about every time we saw David Bell's face. It seems to be the exact opposite every time we hear anything about Terry Francona.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's certainly a nice change of pace from something that hasn't worked, and we'll see how much it pays off when the regular season rolls around. I mean, I hope that it translates to wins like a lot of people expect it to.
Yeah, and again, those are just going to be the little things that come out throughout spring training that are just different than what you normally hear from managers. Really just about baseball, as we've addressed there. I saw you were getting beat up on X yesterday, or not really you, but like about our take yesterday with Gavin Lux.
Yeah,
a lot of people had a problem with us saying that Gavin Lux. I think we all kind of agreed on what we think the middle infield is going to look like. I didn't think it was that crazy that we said Gavin Lux would not be starting in the infield for the Reds this year. I didn't think that was that hot of a take, but a lot of people seem to kind of push back on that.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to push back, they're more than welcome to. He played a lot of games with the Dodgers last year. I think he's going to play a decent amount of games for the Reds. I just think that if I'm told, and this is what I'm told by every single person on Reds Twitter, this is what I'm told by every single person in the world, is that the Reds, when they're healthy, they have their guys. CES is our first baseman. Jamir is our third baseman. We have Ellie and Matt, middle infield. In the outfield, we've got Spencer Steer, TJ Friedel, Jake Fraley, Will Benson, Austin Hayes, * Stuart Fairchild. He's not going to play catcher, I don't think. So we have Tyler Stevenson. I don't think he's going to pitch. I don't know what position I'm forgetting, but that's a lot of positions there where Gavin Lux just can't insert himself without proving it. I think Gavin Lux is a good player. I love Gavin Lux. I love him more than anything. I know that my guy Kirby likes to title those clips differently, but I do. I think it's a good addition. He's a good utility guy. When the Reds need him, and they will need him at some point this year, he will be ready to go, and he'll be a more than serviceable offensive player. Probably a great defensive player, depending on where they play him, as long as it's not in the outfield. So I think Gavin Lux is great. If the starting lineup plays to how good that we all think they can, I don't know where he'd play. Where does he go? Is he replacing Jamir at third? I guess somebody goes to DH. Maybe he DHs. If you want to say that he DHs more times than not, then that's an argument I'm willing to hear. But there's a lot of guys on this team that are at least have a spot, and I don't think Gavin Lux is going to take it away.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, that people they always do that. They jump in and they get mad and say, how can you say that he's coming from the Dodgers? He was good enough for the Dodgers, but not good enough to start for the Reds. They never bring a solution to the table. They never say, well, he'll start over Matt McClain. He's going to start at short over Ellie De La Cruz. You're gonna put him at third. He's not really listed to play there. So what's the solution? Who's he starting over? I guess is the big question that I have.
I don't think he starts over anybody as of opening day.
If everyone's healthy, all things being equal.
Correct, and that's what the take was. So if injuries happen, then Gavin Lux is going to start. And I think I said it yesterday. I think that was excluded from the clip. But I think I said, Jonathan India was supposed to be a utility type of player last year. Guess what? You lose half your infield a month into the year. Jonathan India has to play every day, and he did. So if the Reds have injuries, God forbid that happens, but if the Reds do have injuries this year, Gavin Lux is going to play a lot of games, and he's going to be good. I just don't think as of today, on opening day, spring training, Gavin Lux is going to be a starting position player for the Reds. Again, he could absolutely DH. I don't know off the top of my head what his splits are against lefties. I'll have to go check that out. But if he's a DH, great. I'm more than willing to. My point was, if you look at the starting lineup, I don't think he's a starting position player as of right now. And I don't think that's a crazy thing to say.
Not even a little. And I saw more comments underneath that said, well, he has to be in the lineup somehow, even if it's in the outfield. Again, where? Who? Are you telling?
He's also just not an outfielder.
He's not an outfielder.
He's not an outfielder.
Everybody can spin me that he's not. I mean, everybody hates Spencer Steer because he's not an outfielder either, and they force him out in the outfield. So we're going to fix that problem by putting another infielder out in the outfield. He is a negative outs above average. I know people like to throw that at me. He's got a negative outs above average. Very, very minimally better than Spencer Steer in significantly less games in that position. So, again, this is not like me knocking Gavin Lux. I like Gavin Lux. I just don't think if you're thinking about who's going to be the X factor for the Reds this season, I don't think Gavin Lux cracks the top 10.
I hope Candelario is good enough that he can play third base. Otherwise, I mean, what are we signing for?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. If
that's more optimism than anything else.
If Jameer and CES are bad, then sure. Then we're starting Gavin Lux. 100%. Like, that's not what I'm saying. The whole take is that if every guy is healthy and they play up to their potential, I don't think Gavin Lux is as big of a factor, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah, and again, just know it, and we'll figure the rest out with him later. But this is good problems to have. These are good problems to have. Not knowing where you're going to squeeze people is actually a good thing, because last year we were just desperately looking for anyone to throw out there in that regards. Some other reports from camp as well. Charlie Goldsmith, he brought up the fact of Nick Martinez. Nick Martinez, and I think we've all agreed that because of the qualifying offer and how much he's making, it's not a debate about bullpen versus rotation. At least he's starting the season in the rotation. All things are leaning in that direction. Nick Martinez being asked about, his role in the rotation and his overall view of the rotation. He says, we've got a lot of talent. We can show a lot of people that this team means business. We have a lot of young guys that were still getting their footing and making adjustments at this level last year. Coming into this camp, we have guys that know what they're capable of. Now just go out there and show it. I mean, I get it. It's a rah-rah quote, nothing there. But he's in the rotation. There's no debate about this, right? Like, this isn't, like, of all the question marks that we have about the Reds, I don't think this is one that's being debated, right? He's starting the season in the rotation.
Yeah, that's correct. I am 100% he is. I think so. I don't see a way that you can justify it without having him in there, at least as of right now. So I agree 100%.
All right, off the bench presented.
We do have breaking news real quick.
Is it about the Bengals?
It is. The Bengals got their guy.
Oh, they got their guy?
They got their guy.
First domino has fallen to the most important offseason in Bengals history.
Don't you just love dominoes? Dominoes are great.
Little cinnamon twists.
Mm.
What is our Bengals breaking news? What are they? Who's their guy? What guy did they get?
So they signed a 2-year deal with our punter Ryan Rico. Ryan Rico, welcome back.
Legend of the game.
Hopefully he won't have to be used a lot next year, right?
That's the goal. That's the goal. We keep everyone around. He'll be sitting on the bench.
That's the extension we've all been waiting for, right there. Bang. Per Jay Morrison, by the way. That was per Jay Morrison.
All right, off the bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Any closing thoughts on the Reds before we get to Sam LeCure here shortly?
No, I don't. Not at this very second, but I again, cautiously optimistic. Health is the most important thing, and you're going to keep an eye on that throughout spring. But everybody looks to be okay right now. There's some soreness out there with Louder. There's some soreness out there with Spencer Steer. Both have said that I don't think they're significantly worried about it. Spencer Steer's the one I would have a little bit of question mark because it's been an ongoing issue for a couple months now. But I do think they're all going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And opening day is right around the corner.
Yeah, I don't know where like a lot of the crazy optimism is coming from over the last couple days, but I do feel pretty excited about this Red season and moving into everything going on, and it's exciting to have Terry Francona as the manager, and it's exciting to see everyone back.
Have you two
playing.
switched? Have you two switched? Is he Mr. Optimism
now?
And now you're here
see the optimism thing again. Everybody can be as optimistic as they want. I'm not saying that you can't be optimistic. I'm just going to try to change my outlook. I'm a negative fan. Everybody knows this. I'm going to try to change my outlook this year with Terry Francona.
It's exciting.
Knowing that if they're really bad this year, and I mean
it's
really
all over.
Like I don't know if I can do it again. I can't do it again.
That's fair.
Like if they win under 70 games this year, I'll be broken.
Broken. You talked about Rhett Louder, last update on him. But Rhett Louder, according to Charlie Goldsmith, Rhett Louder talking about dealing with that elbow soreness. He did start his throwing program yesterday. He said, I hit a hiccup, but I feel great with where I'm at now. It was a blessing in disguise. It opened a light to things I need to work on with my body that I didn't know about. It's good to know more about that now. So
Good for him.
starts the throwing program. Hopefully that's the last of those hiccups that we hear about, and it's all full steam ahead.
Keep learning.
Yep. All right, Sam LeCure going to hang out with us when we come back. More Off the Bench when we return. All right, and we are back. That was a little bit of a longer break than usual. Sam LeCure just spent his whole time wishing Casey a happy birthday.
That's right. He was
Happy
the first
birthday
one.
this, happy birthday
Casey,
that.
happy birthday.
Yeah.
I'd like to be the first.
Second.
Sam LeCure joining us now here on Off the Bench. Sam, we appreciate your time, and a shout out to that badass cowboy hat. Definitely looking cooler than all of us here today. So, but we
I appreciate it, man.
Where are you heading? Where are you coming back from?
I'm coming back from, I've been in Salt Lake City and Idaho for about a week. Once I got done playing ball, I was living in Denver, and snowboarding became my new hobby. So I spent a lot of time in the mountains. So I'm in Salt Lake City Airport right now, and I'm heading back to Cincinnati.
Well, very cool. We appreciate, again, you giving us time. Last week, they released the broadcast teams, of course, for the Reds. Was there a doubt about you coming back? Was that like, was there a little bit of uncertainty? We're beyond happy that you are coming back, by the way. We've been talking about it on the show for a while, but we are glad that you're back. And was there any uncertainty there?
Okay, then, but you're not going
Oh, yeah. It was a pretty anxious off season for me. Hearing, just talking to the people and kind of reading the writing on the wall, it was going to be, MLB. It was going to be that model. And then those other models, they have not done pre and post game shows. So I was pretty certain I was out of a job. And I didn't think that was a reflection of me or Giesenslaw or anything like that. I think that was just the nature of the beast financially. So as it turned out, when MLB initially did take over, the Reds went to bat for us, and we were going to be the one model that was going to keep home pre and post game shows because of the set down the third base line. That's kind of a feature down there, and I think that they fought for us. They were going to come out of pocket. The Reds were going to come out of pocket to keep that thing going, which I really appreciated. So I was going to work probably about 50 games under that model, and then they, obviously have switched back over to FanDuel, but I didn't really kind of confirm that till within the last week. There's a lot of things up in the air that are going to move some guys around. I don't know how much I'm supposed to say. I guess I don't really care, me. But they're going to flip, like there's going to be some Cowboys going to be in different places. Chris Welsh is going to be in different places. We're going to, maybe broadcast some of the road post game shows from the ballpark. So there's some different things like that. But yeah, there was definitely some anxiety about it, to the point where I was, certainly looking into other opportunities for me to explore, to spend my time. I was going to, work with, a group, and I still have been working with a group around Cincinnati named the Cincy Flames, kind of going over there and helping them a couple times a week, give a lesson, sparingly, but, kind of work with groups of kids, 5, 6, 8 kids, anywhere from, maybe 10 to 16, something like that. So, but yeah, there was definitely it was pretty unnerving to feel like I didn't know which way the wind was going to blow me this year. But definitely happy to be back.
There's been a lot of talk as spring training kicked off about what the Reds will need from Ellie and McLean and Hunter and the rest of the bigger names on the roster. But who's the most underrated player on the Reds roster this season when it comes to the team's success and trying to get us back to the playoffs?
I haven't heard the name. I mean, again, when I'm off work, I'm off work. as you can tell. So obviously I follow along. I think Tyler Stevenson's huge. I think he's the one who's been here the longest. He's both sides of the ball. I think he really came into his own last year. He's going to work with the pitching staff, and we know how key that's going to be. I love what the pitching staff has an opportunity to be. And I think he just kind of scratched the surface in the second half. I don't necessarily want to say scratch the surface because he hit 20 home runs, as a catcher who caught a lot of games last year. So that's pretty remarkable for him. You don't see that a ton in the game anymore. A guy catching 110, 120 games, hitting 20 homers. So I think he's the key to a lot of this. The infield, because Tyler's going to be the guy. We know, and Ellie's going to play shortstop every day, I hope. But I think Tyler's going to be the guy that's kind of your stalwart. He's going to be behind the plate. He's going to be in the lineup pretty much every day. He's going to be your constant. We talked about a lot of these guys moving around to different positions. But Tyler's not going to, right? I mean, he's going to be your mainstay back there. So I think he's a big key to it.
I asked you last season, how much blame should be placed on David Bell? And I think you and I came to an agreement on that one. How much credit now are we going to give Terry Francona when this Reds team makes the playoffs?
No, we're going to give him plenty of credit, but he doesn't deserve all of it.
I agree.
Okay. So I think, and I'll just get this out of the way. I think as far as free agent signings, that Terry Francona is going to be your highest wins above replacement signing in all of baseball, Juan Soto included. I think Terry Francona is a 10-win player, so to speak. So they were destined to get better. They were destined to take a step back last year. I thought you don't improve by 20 games. I mean, that's kind of fluky. You just don't see it a whole lot in baseball. So the fact that they regressed, and that was a lot due to injury, maybe some of it due to David Bell. I don't want to say that, but we're going to give Terry plenty of credit. But this team, I mean, this is kind of like year 3 or 4 of these guys being together, right? I mean, this is the time when it's supposed to happen anyway. I could have managed this freaking team this year, and they would have got better. And I mean, I'm joking, but I mean that. They're just bound to get better because they're spending more time in the league. They understand what it's like to be a professional, what challenges they're going to face at the big league level. I heard you mention Rhett Lauder a minute ago. He got his feet wet, 6 starts. That's a big deal. That's exactly the number of starts I had my rookie year to kind of prepare me for what was to come. So I think a lot of these guys, there are a couple big question marks. I'd say 2 kind of big question marks for me. And one of them is Christian Encarnacion Strand, who last year was kind of my pick to click. He was the guy that I thought was going to be your 280, 30 homer, 100 RBI guy. It didn't come to fruition. The other one's Noel V. Marte. I think he needs to start the year in the minor leagues without a doubt. Candelario, I think with there's always going to be that settling into a new organization. I think that was part of it. But he needs to be better. Alexis, there's still question marks on this team. I expect them all to be answered. I think that everybody's going to get better. I think Terry has a different voice, and when you walk into a clubhouse, and David Bell obviously had a really great major league career. He's been in every position that you can be as far as player development goes, but he's not a legend.
Yeah. I wanted to ask.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you too, like when you're in spring training, and you were an established guy with the Reds, but when you're working on, especially with a new manager, and you have so many young guys with this team, what is the goal for like a young pitcher compared to an established vet, right? Are you trying to get to know like Terry Francona? Is that the goal? What's the overall goal for a young pitcher in spring training this year?
To be yourself. I think that you want Terry to know exactly who he's dealing with. Yeah, consistency is key in this game, across the board, right? I mean, your performance, you want consistency. You want consistency in your attitude and your effort. So if you go there and you're be yourself, and you never have to fake it. I mean, that's was my thought when I got into the TV job, man. I was like, I'm going to be myself. If they don't like it, then I'll know, because they won't ask me back the next year. But if I can go out there and be myself on a daily basis, there's consistency in that. So you want Terry to know who he's going to deal with every single day. As a human, you don't have to be friends. You'd like to have a great relationship, sure, but you're not going to be friends. But Terry wants to know who he's going to get on a daily basis. So if you're a young pitcher, you go in and show him what you're made of. You let your skills do the talking, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
shut your mouth, open your ears and eyes, and shut your mouth, right? And I think that's going to be the big thing. If Terry approaches you, obviously get to know each other. You want to, because that's a piece of it too. But I think it's really important for those guys to just go out there and be themselves, trust in who they are. That's kind of step one when you're becoming a major leaguer, is really believing in who you are as a person first, but as a player. Like, you have to believe that your shit works at the big league level. The sooner that you come to grips with who you are, the better it's going to be for you.
Let me ask you this. This is my last question for you. Sam Slate, obviously,
come on.
Your premier segment, Sam Slate. I love the caricature. I absolutely love it. Now, let me ask you this, though. This, I guess, is a two-parter. The caricature, will the forehead of your caricature get bigger this year? And my second question would be, similarly to the way Marty shaved his head for a 10-game winning streak a couple years ago, will you shave your mustache if the Reds start 10-0?
Ooh.
First of all, thank God this is video so you can see this. Yes, my hairline's going to get bigger probably. That's why I'm wearing the damn hat. Secondly, if the Reds start 10-0, sure, I'll shave my mustache and I'll shave my head too.
All right,
So, but I don't know how, they said you can only have one bald guy on the pre and post game show, and Geese has already got that one.
Sam LeCure hanging out with us here again off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Sam, you heading out to spring training at any point? Is that you coming up? Going to be heading out there soon?
Not that I've heard. Again, like I'm saying, we're still just kind of finalizing a lot of the stuff with the TV deal. I actually technically haven't signed anything. I've had all the conversations. Everything's in order. I'll be back. But usually I think because there's a financial aspect to what FanDuel's doing, obviously that's why this is all happening. I don't think they're just going to be flying me around the country to go out and do, broadcasts. The past couple of years they've had me broadcast a couple of the when they've televised the spring training game, they've had me go out there and do that. And I've enjoyed that. Aside from, if they asked me to do that, I'd love to. I doubt it. But I may go out there and just play some golf and go see the guys anyway.
All right, last thing on the way out. Again, we appreciate your time. I know you're about to board a flight or whatever, but Hunter Green last year finished his top 10 in the Cy Young, category, of course. But I think we talked on yesterday's show. I said I think for the Reds to really take that next step, they need to have someone else in that rotation, obviously match that type of talent that we've seen from Hunter Green. Who is that guy for you? I said Nick Lodolo. I don't think that's a hot take. Obviously, Brady Singer, a big addition. Nick Martinez, was great last year, and expect a lot of big things from him. Who's that number two guy that you're expecting the most from that's going to complement Hunter Green and put the Reds in that position to win this division and make the playoffs?
Is this Sam? It's got to be Nick. It's got to be. Sorry, get my smoothie. All right, boys. Let's take a walk through Salt Lake with Sammy. It's got to be Nick, man. I think that he just has such the potential. He's got, all the tools that you would want for a guy to be able to do that. And as with anything, it's health, and he won't be as good. I mean, I've heard him talk. He's in best shape and all this crap. And the one guy that I heard actually say something that I love, and I'm starting to love this guy more, is Paul Skeens, because they're like, how do you feel? He's like, well, look, I'm not going to go into that best shape of my life BS. He's like, I'm in great shape. Who knows what the best shape of their life is? But Nick feels like he's in a really good place physically. that is a confidence builder mentally. You know, when you go out there and you feel like you're going to be able to get in a position to make your pitch every time physically, it just builds confidence from a mental standpoint. So it needs to be him. I mean, Nick Martinez was very good last year at the end of the year. I love Nick. I think he brings a ton to the rotation. Brady Singer's going to give you innings. A number 2, and I still believe in Nick as the number 1. Am I going the right way? I give a shit. You know, a number 2 in a playoff series, which is how I think. Like, you know, you guys can talk about divisions and winning records and all that shit. Like, you got to get into the playoffs, and you need a 1 and 2 starter to scare somebody. And Nick and Hunter are those guys. There's not another guy in that rotation that scares you. I mean, there's good arms. And man, you know, I know they wouldn't take offense to this. You know, if Nick Martinez was copied on this call, he doesn't scare anybody. He's a really good pitcher. He doesn't swing and miss like Nick can. So that's important. So it needs to be Nick for me. You know, we'll see how it goes. He's got to stay on the field. You know, a lot of the things about health is that it not only stunts your growth as far as gaining innings, stunts your growth is being able to read major league hitters. You know, like he's not going to be able to jump up to 180 innings this year because he hasn't had the workload, and he also hasn't seen, you know, who's a guy in the division. You know, William Contreras for the Brewers takes his slider. You know, like those are things that you need to see. Like it's gaining, you know, mental log of what's going on within the game. So he's going to be behind. Like he's good enough, I think, to overcome that. He's got as good of a 3-pitch mix. I mean, he's Chris Sale, dude. He's Chris Sale. If he can stay on the field, just like when Chris Sale couldn't stay on the field, he wasn't very good, right? But he gets back and he's on the field for a full season, wins a Cy Young. Now, I'm not going to throw him into that category yet. You got to get some dirt in your spikes before I start handing out Cy Young awards. But it's got to be Nick in the rotation.
All right, good stuff. Sam LeCure giving us some time today. Enjoy your smoothie. Get to your flight on time, and we appreciate you giving us time in the airport. Love the cowboy hat. Talk soon.
You got it. See you, partners.
See you.
Sam LeCure, favorite interview we've done.
One of the
that
best.
was, I mean, he said shit like at least a good 5 times. Casey, what's one more for you to go and find?
Yeah.
I'm going to help you go find those. You're good. You're good. Man, if he keeps cussing, this might be the last show we ever do.
Maybe.
We'll be right back. We're off the bench when we come back. Next time we have him on, we're getting all cowboy hats.
I would
We're all
love
going
a
to flip
cowboy
off
hat.
Elliott like that. Like, is that the first guest to give you the middle finger?
I think
Maybe.
so.
But speaking of firsts, I want to be the first to wish Casey a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Casey. New segment. Just wanted to kick it off by being the first to wish you happy birthday.
Thanks, Jacob.
Of course.
I'm still waiting on Elliot to wish me.
I know.
Casey, I'd like to be the
I know
second.
it's pretty disingenuous.
I'd like to be the
for
second person, Casey, to wish you the happiest of birthdays.
Needed someone to remind you.
You really needed Jacob to remind you.
Yeah. And, by the way, FC Cincinnati gave you a birthday present yesterday.
Oh,
Yeah, Vander, official.
How about that? One
love
name. One name legend. I love that.
That's
Cher.
the type of
Like
aura he
Cher?
wants. Yeah.
You know-
Beyonce?
Beyonce?
Eminem?
No. No? Yeah, Eminem.
Yeah. I
Okay,
love it.
so you're back.
I'm all the way back. FC's gonna have a good year this year. They replaced an MVP caliber player with another MVP caliber player. So what more could you ask for?
That's right.
And younger, I'm pretty sure.
That's
so,
right.
Wow.
Yeah, by the way, was starting to get a little worried about what the broadcast teams are going to look like. I did think it was weird that we didn't even know who, we weren't even sure about John Sadak. That got all thrown.
Yeah, it seemed bizarre. The whole TV deal situation and how it shook out and how we knew it was MLB and then they took it away and then it's FanDuel and it all seemed very weird.
I don't fully understand what went down, but I mean, I think that if the Reds get a little bit of money out of this, which I think they did, it's better for us. So I'm glad they're still with Bally, FanDuel, that whoever owns that company, FanDuel Sports Network. I'm still glad they are with them because it's just more revenue, I think, for the Reds. Not even revenue, it's just money. So good. And the broadcast teams, I think they all do a good job. The new era fans of this Reds team, they love Sadak. This year I'm hoping Larkin gets a little bit more energetic up there. That's my goal for this year. But outside of him, I think that the rest of the team's very good. I love watching the pre and post game shows, and I love listening to the radio. I literally love pretty much Jim Day's awesome. I love every single part of the Reds broadcast teams.
Yeah, the Reds are. I mean, there's quite a few teams in baseball that do value the media side of things. The Reds are probably right there at the top as far as how much they do value not just the radio side but also the TV side. I thought it was actually interesting when he said that the Reds. So had they gone with the MLB route, and a lot of teams that have, like the Guardians and others, they don't have that pre and post game. That the Reds were willing to, pay the bill. They were willing to fork over the money to be able to include that as a part of their Reds coverage if that was the case. But don't have to worry about it. Sam LeCure, if you just jumped on and missed it, we'll have that posted on Chatterbox, or you can go back and watch it in the show later on as well. But I appreciate him giving us some time, and we'll have him on again as we get closer to the season, of course, nonetheless. But no, with that being said, again, Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410, Wing AM in Dayton. You guys went to spring training last year. Isn't that right when you started?
I did. So I went to spring training with Kirby and Trace, and we did a little spring training coverage there for a couple days. Drove out west. It was I think that it's different for everybody, and I tried to ask Sam there too. And I didn't want to ask him too much about it being a competition, but I wonder how much of it is just a tryout for a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
They're trying to showcase their talent. They're trying to be as good as they can be. They're probably trying to push it a little bit too hard maybe, and maybe that results in injuries. I don't know anything, but I'm just saying that it's an interesting dynamic when you go into spring training because I feel like there's so many guys, especially this year, that are trying to make this roster, and there's so many question marks around the actual roster. And if you go back and forth, it's like we have a definite set number of guys that are going to be on our team. We know that. But you can, if you're CES and you ball out this spring, that gives everybody so much more confidence. Now, you cannot, he's going to be a starter no matter what. If he struggles in the spring, I think he's going to be there. But it's just another way to, showcase who you are. And I think for the Reds, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an identity out of all these guys. I want Noelvi Marte to prove me wrong. I want him to come out this spring. I want him to be better. I want every single one of our pitchers. I want Nick Lodolo, Andrew Abbott. I want to see Graham Ashcraft. I want to see these guys during the spring. I want to see all their stuff, and I want to see if they're ready to go for the start of the season. Can Rhett Lauder, can he force his way into our rotation? I think so. But again, it's Nick Martinez. During that interview, Sam's like, Nick Martinez is a great pitcher, but he's not going to be the swing and miss type of guy. Nobody's whiffing on Nick Martinez stuff. If we can see more stuff out of these young guys, maybe they earn their way into the rotation. Nick Martinez goes to the bullpen. I don't see a problem with it. I know there might be some people who have an issue paying $21 million to a reliever. I don't see it that way. I think you pay money to good players no matter what. I just think there's so many question marks right now, and I think spring training is a good litmus test for it.
And again, not overreacting to that interview by any means, Nick Martinez is my biggest concern, not because I doubt his ability, but no pitcher has ever, Hunter Green goes up and down throughout the season. All pitchers do. But I do wonder, now that he got that money, is that going to put added pressure to, if Nick Martinez hits a downfall for a bit, a slump, like all pitchers do, okay, it's just a slump, but I think we risk a slump for him being carried out even more because I think of the added pressure of, well, we paid him for that. Yeah. We paid him for that. And then you have to wonder, how many starts does he get where he struggles before it's like, well, should we move him to the bullpen? And then you have that tug of war of, well, we paid him $22 million. Like, I do think I try not to make so much about what he got paid. I just look at it as the talent that he brings to the table and how good he was last year. But I do think how much he got paid is going to be used against him. I don't think he's going to be given the benefit of the doubt as some of the other pitchers will if they hit a slump throughout the season. I am worried about that storyline developing throughout the year. I hope he gets out to a hot start and we don't have to worry about it. But when that time does come, that is something I'm keeping an eye on throughout the season. How are fans, how are media, how are we all going to respond to a month where he just doesn't have his stuff? And it's like, well, what did we pay you for? It was a bad contract. We wasted money. That's my biggest concern from the Nick Martinez standpoint when it's all said and done.
I don't think the 1-year deals do that. I think and I hate to throw out names because I don't like to judge character, but when Mike Moustakas signed that contract with the Reds, I felt like he regressed to a point where almost to an Anthony Rendon type of like point where it's like I don't know if he's out there trying. And I don't like to call that or say that Mike Moustakas didn't try when he was with the Reds. I'm sure he tried. It just appears to me on paper like when you sign these, when you're a bona fide vet and you get your contract, you get that extension for 4 or 5 years. And it's like 3 to 5 years, and it's like, all right, I got my money, I'm secure, I'm settled right here, and I'm ready to go. And I think it takes a little bit off your shoulders, right? It takes that weight off, and you come in relaxed. And sometimes I think guys get a little bit too relaxed. I think these 1-year deals are great because I do think it's like, do you want to play again next year for $21 million? You got to pitch as good as you did last year, and you got to keep that rolling. So I'm not worried about that with Nick Martinez.
I do worry about this dollar sign keeping him in the rotation. I think that's a thing. You have Rhett Lauder tearing it up. We get lucky enough where Chase Burns is what he's built up to be as a prospect, and he's ready to pitch in the majors at some point this year. And do we just not have a spot in the rotation because they refuse to move a $20 million guy to the bullpen? That's where my concern comes in. And I hope not. I hope they're just going to play the best players, and that's how the Reds are going to win as many games as possible. So we'll see what happens, but that would be where my concern comes in with the dollar signs.
Other takeaway from our conversation with Sam LeCure, I mean, obviously, I don't think we've come across anyone that has said this Terry Francona addition is not a big deal. But, I mean, he said Terry Francona, is an added 10 wins for the season. I mean, the Reds are 10-0 already just because they already have 10 wins on the year just because of the addition to Terry Francona that we made such a big deal about the Juan Soto signing in the offseason. He went as far to say as the Reds are going to get more from the hiring of their manager of Terry Francona than what the Mets are going to get with Juan Soto. When he said that, what was your initial takeaway?
I think there's more wiggle room with the Reds, so he could technically end up being correct. I think just with the young core that they could get 10 more wins with a little bit more stringent management and being pushed in the right direction. I think that could definitely help the Reds. They're a young team, a formidable team, and if you can, kind of guide them in the right way, I think that could definitely help. But I don't think any manager is worth more wins than an MVP level player.
I understand why people think that. I do. I understand the coach, the leader of the team. I understand it all. I don't think that when it comes down to it, if you have a great manager and you've got a team full of guys that aren't proven, that aren't established, that aren't vets, that aren't ready to be a veteran level professional baseball players, I still don't think that team works out. The difference with this team is they, as Sam said, they have been in the league for a little bit now.
Yeah.
These aren't rookies anymore. These are. I mean, they're still young. They're still young, but they're not rookies anymore. They know the game. They know how professional baseball works. They're well aware of it, and their experience, I think, up until this point, can be helped by a guy like Terry Francona. I don't think it was working with David Bell. I do think it's going to work with Terry Francona. So am I going to be a little bit of a hypocrite on this take? Yeah, always. Because it's just they went out and got the one guy that I think does make a difference objectively. I don't know if he makes a 10-game difference. I think you're going to see it in the long haul. Maybe not even like an abject 10 wins when it comes to making the right bullpen decision or putting in the right pinch hitter, right? I think it's in the long term, you're just going to see a better overall team. I think you're going to see less strikeouts offensively. I think you're going to see less errors defensively. I think you're going to see less base running errors. I think when it comes to everything, I think they're just going to be a little bit better than they were last year at pretty much everything down the line. Average, hits, home runs. I think they're just going to be better. And whether or not that's going to be because of Terry Francona, I'm certainly going to give him all the credit in the world. But But it's a culmination of both things, right? It's a culmination of a manager, a world champion manager who knows what he's doing, and it's also a ready now talent filled roster that I think the Reds have.
All right, Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Ruring, Jacob Tissett with you here. 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. We'll do a couple more likely scenarios when we come back. I'll throw a few scenarios at you, and you tell me which of these is more likely to happen. We'll do that when we come back. More Off the Bench when we return.
Happy birthday, Casey. I'd like to be the first one to wish you a happy birthday. Bang, baby.
Just took you to the final segment.
Woo!
You went
Woo!
1 for 6 today?
No, I didn't go 1 for 6. I went 3 for 6. Why don't you keep up?
You realize of
Why
all
don't
the
you keep up?
he seemed the least.
Segment 1, segment 2, and now segment 6.
I don't think Casey cared at all about your birthday.
That one seemed like he seemed the least appreciative of that one. He was like very receptive to all the other ones.
he
That
didn't
one, he
care
was
at
like,
all.
thanks. He even said it took you to the last segment.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to wish you a happy birthday, Casey.
I did. He about choked too because I was trying to give him the heads up, like, and he was taking a drink of his water.
You did make me choke there.
So
on my own water.
There's that. We welcome you back again. Shout out to Sam LeCure for giving us time. We'll have that interview posted later for you to go back and take a look at if you missed it. A couple more likely scenarios to throw your way. What's more likely, Tee Higgins to be with his current team in Week 1 or Myles Garrett to be with his current team in Week 1 of the upcoming NFL season? What's more likely?
I think it's more likely that I think it's very likely both players will be with their teams, but more likely, I would still say there's a more likely chance that T is with the Bengals. I think there's just a better vibe. There's a better atmosphere in Cincinnati. No disrespect. Don't throw a helmet at me. I do think that if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, you have something. Right now, the Cleveland Browns are starting over, and that's not a bad thing. They know the answer on their quarterback. They need a new one, so they're going to go out and get new players. I don't think that the Myles Garrett situation's a massive deal for Cleveland. I really don't think so. And if there's any player between those two that would have a grudge or would have any inkling to not want to play at the start of the season, it would be him, not Tee Higgins, in my opinion. Now, I could be wrong on that because if the Bengals don't want to pay Tee Higgins, then we're in a world of hurt.
Two things real quick. One, when you brought up throwing the helmet, I do recall you were kind of dumb for handing me the helmet.
I was. No, that's on
Remember,
me.
because I'm going back to that.
Yeah, that's on
me.
me.
Hand me that.
Misread
And you
the
handed
situation.
It to me, like you gave me the gun.
I armed a crazy person.
Yes.
I armed a crazy person.
I don't know why I just thought of that. I was staring at that helmet. I'm like, that helmet's way over there. Why would I throw it? And I'm like, how did I get the helmet? Oh yeah, you handed it to me.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that.
We gave it to
Definitely
him.
shouldn't have done that, but I did, and I can't recover.
Second point, Sam texted and said, last interview, best interview, both, LOL.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. Well, I mean, we need more. I want more cowboy hat. I want more of him flipping the bird to Elliot.
It's all positive.
And more curse words. I've always been a big fan of curse words on the show. So, yeah, I think that was
you and the
best.
FCC both.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to test that. Hopefully we catch all those, when we go back. And we're going to sift through it after the show before we send it to radio. But what's more likely, Tee Higgins to be with his current team, the Bengals, in Week 1, or Myles Garrett to be with his current team, the Browns, in Week 1? Obviously, you can always say both. Both could theoretically. But which one is more likely? I think that I think it's more likely that Myles Garrett is a Brown in Week 1 than Tee Higgins is a Bengal in Week 1, only because the Browns have more to lose moving on from Myles Garrett than the Bengals have moving on from Tee Higgins, even though they both need him. The Browns, from a cap situation, it cost them so much money to move on from Myles Garrett. It doesn't cost the Bengals money to move on from Tee Higgins. In fact, it only gets them a return. Just from the business side of things, I think there's more loopholes that the Browns have to jump through, that they have to accept than the Bengals do. Because I think the Bengals could be fine either way. They can trade Tee Higgins, assuming that tag's going to happen. It sounds like it will. they can get a return and still be okay. The Browns, it's a lose-lose situation. If you keep him, he's probably not playing for you in week 1, but at the same time, that's $30 million. I think it's actually up to 60, the cap hit that you could spend elsewhere on the roster. Or if you move on from him, yes, you're going to get a lot of draft picks in return, but that's a $60 million cap hit, just his cap hit, not including everybody else's. So what's the point of rolling over Deshaun for another season? So you're not going to roll over his contract again just to accept just to have his cap hit later. You might as well just accept all of the cap hell in this offseason. Right. But then you got to do it again next year for the remaining year on both of their contract. I just don't see the Browns moving on from Myles Garrett from that perspective. So for me, I think it's more likely Myles Garrett is a Brown in week 1 than T. But yes, there always is the option that both could be with their current teams in week 1. What say you?
I agree. I think Myles Garrett's more likely Brown in week 1 than T is a Bengal in week 1. But really? I think it's more likely that they're both on their team than anything. But there's 2 options for Tee Higgins. Number 1, the Bengals reach a long-term extension. Number 2, they trade him. Myles Garrett, there's anything could happen in Cleveland. And only one of those options is him not being a Brown.
Yep.
He could sit there on the current deal and just sit in the box like Chris Jones did in week 1. He could hold out on a new extension. They move money around. Like, there's so many different things that could lead to Myles Garrett staying in Cleveland. The only thing that leads to Tee Higgins staying in Cincinnati is an extension. Yep. So that's the only reason I lean Myles Garrett. If I had to bet, I'd say they're both on their current team week 1.
Yeah, I think the Browns, too, are going to keep Myles as long as they can into this offseason because I think what they're going to try and do, I think they're going to take Shedeur at 2. Okay. Sounds like that meeting went okay. Yeah.
He said he plays Madden exclusively as the Browns as well.
So, why,
And welcome to Bengals fandom.
Yeah. Wait, what?
You said if the Browns take Shedeur, you're a Bengals fan? Remember that?
That is right.
We played it on the show last month.
You did say that. You did say it.
So it's all lining up. I learned my lesson.
I'm going to put it on this time.
I learned my lesson.
Actually, that thing hurts. I'm not.
Yeah, you can't put it on.
I think if they go quarterback at 2, maybe it's Cam Ward. So bite me. I don't have to hoo-day it.
That'd be cool.
But no, if they go Cam Ward or Shedeur at 2, and they roll over some contracts and they go spend some money in free agency, maybe and vibes are good. That's enough to maybe convince Myles, like, okay, we're not moving forward with trading you, but look, here's the things that we did to – basically they're putting on an audition. How they handle the draft, what they do in free agency, I think is going to be very key in the next steps with Myles Garrett. So I think that their offseason is going to be an interesting one. No matter what they do, is it putting him in position to win a Super Bowl? But if he feels he can go and be a part of a team that can win 9, 10, 11 games and make things interesting, maybe that's the best of both worlds. Maybe the Browns say, come back one more year. We'll move on from you after this upcoming season if both sides aren't happy. But it does not make any financial sense for the Browns to move on from Myles Garrett. People will say, well, what if he sits out? Then he sits out. You're not going to get his production anyway, so you might as well go if both options lead to not getting any of his production on the field at all, go with the option that is going to save you the most money, and that is keeping him on the roster, him not playing, but us not having to eat that cap hit this year. I think that's really what it's going to come down to, but we'll see. Next one, which scenario is most likely? The Reds winning the NL Central or the Reds missing the playoffs altogether?
Oh, boy.
I think it's the same.
Not making keep in mind, not wild card, not making the playoffs. I mean, are they closer to winning the division or are they closer to missing the playoffs? And this may seem like an easy one, but just how optimistic are we? I'm challenging his optimism here.
I think it's the same question.
No, I don't think
the Reds are making the playoffs this year if they don't win the division.
I'm gonna say that it's more likely that the Reds will. You said just make the playoffs or win the division.
I said, are they gonna? No, it's not the same. Did I say it wrong? Are they more likely to win the division or more likely to miss the playoffs?
Right.
No, he's saying
the only way the Reds make the playoffs is if they win the Central.
Because
I don't think there's any chance they make a wild card.
Because there's the Mets, the Phillies, the Braves, the Padres.
Remember how bad it was last year, though?
And they all ended with 90 wins.
Yeah, they all ended with 90 wins.
Did they get hot at the end?
Yes.
Remember, we all.
That's what I mean.
Okay. Like there was a stretch where I'm like, the NL Central reminded me of the AFC. I'm like, it's bad at the bottom. I checked out at the last month. I didn't realize they all got to
No, you're right. They were all right around 90 wins. So, like, I don't think the Reds are making the playoffs if they don't win the division. So, I would say they're closer to missing the playoffs.
I think they're probably closer to missing the playoffs than winning the division. I think the Cubs roster is just better. Saying that, I don't think they're even close to coming in last in the division.
I agree.
I don't think, like, if you're looking for a team that's going to win 72 teams, you can go check out the St. Louis Cardinals this year. It won't be the Reds. I think the Cardinals and the Pirates, they're both going to win somewhere. Cardinals and the Pirates will both win about, 72, 74, 75 games. I have the Reds personally at like 83. and that puts the Milwaukee Brewers as a question mark. The Reds can absolutely get up to 85 to 86 wins. I don't think they're a 90-win team. I think they could get up to 85, 86 if they play right and they stay healthy. That's at least where I'm at.
National League wild card last year was 93, 89, 89, and the Diamondbacks missed it with 89.
Yeah, I mean that's just it's going to be difficult to make. It's going to be difficult to make the wild card. I think the Cubs could be worse, but again, they're like my baseline projection's 80, 83. The Cubs' baseline projection this year is going to be 85, 87. Like that's what they think they're capable of winning as like a bad year. So I think the Cubs are still better, and I think they're better, and they're like I'm not going to say significantly better, but they're better to a point where if you look at just missing the playoffs, I think the Reds just have a better chance to miss it than to win the division.
It's like I can fathom them missing the playoffs. They do it more than 90% of the years I've been alive. So, I mean, yes, they're very capable of missing the playoffs. It just feels like I don't think the NL Central's that good. I don't know. This is why this is the one that just makes you want to run your head through a wall because it's really hard to grasp which one of these. It sounds easier to say them missing the playoffs because it just never seems fitting to pick the Reds to win the division. So I'm going to say they're closer to missing the playoffs, but I do think they have all the tools, at least on paper, and we know we played the paper game last year, to compete for the division. But again, when you have I think you're going to have an MVP candidate in Elly De La Cruz, assuming he continues on that trajectory. I mean, from his rookie year to last year, you would assume he's going to – I think he was flirting with that talking point last year when the Reds were in that playoff positioning, or at least within striking distance. Yep. He wasn't the favorite, but he was still in the conversation. Yeah. I think he's going to be just as much in the conversation this year because I think the Reds are going to be better and more in the hunt. And you have that. You're going to have Cy Young candidate, obviously Hunter Green. And I think he's going to have a much more complimentary rotation around him this year. I'm going to roll with the Reds winning the division. I think they're closer to winning the division than they are to missing the playoffs, but setting myself up for pain and punishment.
It's going to be painful.
There you go. Well, here's an even harder one. Which of these scenarios is more likely? The Reds winning the World Series or the Dodgers missing the playoffs? Which one of those is more likely?
Give me a second. This is a
it's
good
not
one.
A friendly one.
That is a good one.
Both are damn near impossible.
The Reds winning the World Series or the Dodgers missing. I mean, it's impossible for the Reds to win a World Series.
And I think it's impossible for the Dodgers to miss the playoffs. That's what it makes. So which one's more impossible? It's like.
But I think I think there's a scenario where maybe the injury bug hits the Dodgers and they all go down. And if that's the case, they wouldn't have I'm not gonna say they wouldn't have a shot because they have unlimited depth. Boy, that is brutal. You know what? Because I'm a positive Elliot, I'm going to say the Dodgers. The Dodgers missing the playoffs is more likely than the Reds winning the World, or less likely? Dodgers.
Which is more likely?
The Reds winning the World Series, you're saying, is
more likely than the Dodgers missing the playoffs.
The Dodgers to miss the playoffs is plus 1,300.
Oh, boy.
And the Reds to win the World Series is plus 10,000.
So Reds winning the World Series is more likely, is what you're saying?
No, that's not exactly
not
what
how it works.
I told you I was being optimistic, Elliot, today, so that's what we're going to go with. I'm going to stick with my answer.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way the Dodgers miss the playoffs, and there's no way the Reds win the World Series. No. So net zero.
That's what makes it a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one. That is a good one. I guess I'll say that the Reds are going to win the World Series.
That's what I'm going with too. Casey, you on that train as well?
Yeah.
Reds World Series.
Let's win it.
Absolutely.
Let's win it.
That's where we're at, baby.
All right, Case, this one goes to you. I don't know if you guys know. Elliot used to work in radio.
He did. He did.
I don't know if you guys know. It's also Casey's birthday.
That's right,
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Which of
You're
these
the
is
first
more
in the
likely?
segment, right?
What's that?
You're the first in this segment, right?
First in the segment. Kinner.
What's more likely? Tee Higgins to be with the Bengals in 2025 or him to be traded? It's a little spin off the one we already did, but we skipped you earlier.
I'm going to say he's going to be a Bengal because Bengals don't really make trades. And if it boiled down to a trade, I mean, they would have to have their socks blown off because they don't make other teams better, is what the quote is. So I'm going to say he's sticking around past 2025.
Someone should tell Duke Tobin that, like, hey, we're not going to make you better by trading you our players. Then you just let them walk. So someone's getting better, and you're not getting any return.
Yeah.
So if you are going to not re-sign Tee Higgins, please make someone better. Please trade him for something.
Yep.
So then you get better.
If I could trust the Bengals process,
That'd be awesome.
If I could trust the Bengals process to draft talent and to develop talent and to sign great free agents all the time, if I could trust their ability to do that, I'd be okay with letting Tee Higgins go. I'd be okay with letting Trey Hendrickson go. But I don't trust them in that. I trust Tee Higgins and I trust Trey Hendrickson. Those are the two guys I trust, right? And I'm not willing to take that away from the team.
One of our great listeners replied to one of my tweets the other day and said that the Bengals letting Trey Hendrickson walk with the hope of signing another Trey Hendrickson, best case scenario, in free agency, is one of the worst arguments he's ever heard. And I think that's a valid point. The dream free agency signing for the Bengals is Trey Hendrickson. We did it.
Yeah.
The value signing turns out to be a league leader. And now the argument for letting Trey Hendrickson walk is, remember when we signed Trey Hendrickson a couple of years ago? It's like, you already have him. Why are we trying again? So I thought that was a really good point. You already got guys in the building. You can't get good guys in the building very often, so you might as well keep those good guys around.
That's why this offseason is just the most fascinating for the Bengals, is because everything scenario we're talking about, they have to do things that they don't do.
Yeah.
I mean, to pay max dollar to multiple key positions, actually to the same position, two different players. They already took care of Joe Burrow, which is not – we never said that the Bengals wouldn't do it, but again, they hadn't been in that position to have to do that for quite some time. And then they did it and then some. Joe Burrow, the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, still just slightly the second highest paid now or whatever. But either way, he was obviously taken care of. Jamar has to be taken care of to make him the highest paid wide receiver in football. T has to be paid market value. Hendrickson has to be paid, market value. And then they also have to go and spend money to put the rest of the roster together, and they have to draft, and they have to draft well, and they have to develop. And they're just being asked to do all the things that they historically don't do. Yeah. They're being asked to do all in one off season. And it's not like they didn't know it was coming. That's why it's very hard to feel bad for them.
See, but that's the thing is I'm starting to think they genuinely are surprised. They're like,
that's the scary thing.
Oh my God, these contracts are up? Who saw this coming? Like, I think that happened after the end of the season. Broncos beat the Chiefs. They're knocked out of the playoffs. They flip the page to the offseason. Duke Tobin's like, oh my gosh, we have free agents.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely think that's what happened.
Because and then also the talking point of, we're not going to trade anyone to make other teams better, but you might be forced to have to do that unless you are going to pay two wide receivers that much money. And I know other teams have done it, but it's not a surprise if teams do it. It's just a surprise if the Bengals do it. So that's why I'm just laughing, is this team has been put in a corner to do all of these uncomfortable things that they normally don't do. And they try to stay out of that. And that's the thing too. So a couple of years ago, they signed Hendrickson to a very team-friendly deal, and they get the max value out of it. And to your point, it's like, well, you already have them, keep them. But they're like, we want to keep him, but we want this value, but we want this production, but for the same value that we got it for
right.
2-3 years ago.
Right.
Their backs are against the wall. They are being put in a position to make all these decisions that they normally don't have to make or don't want to make or aren't capable of making. It's against their philosophy, all these buzzwords of excuse making. And now their feet are against the fire, and now they have to make a decision. That's why this offseason is why. Last year we saw the Giants do the HBO Hard Knocks offseason. I wish the Bengals were doing that this year.
That was such a doozy that they're done.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Giants are still being poked fun at to this day for the Saquon Barkley decision. Yeah. But, man, I think the Bengals would have been perfect for that this year. They would have been the perfect one to see all the behind-the-scenes happenings for how they're handling all this.
I'm again, similarly to the Reds, I'm cautiously optimistic that the Bengals are aware of what's going on here, and they're gonna solve everything by the start of the season, preferably by the start of camp. But that's at least what I would want. And I wish for next year that there's some semblance of confidence being built back into the way we draft, built back into the free agents we get, because we will sign free agents this offseason. Won't be great names, but they will be something. If we can get back to the point where I can trust the franchise again, it's a great first step for at least for the future with Joe Burrow here, because you have to have it. Like the Chiefs, you look at the Chiefs, and I saw Steve was tweeting at us during the show. We love Steve. Thank you for listening, Steve. And he said not everybody pays these two guys, right? Not everybody makes that decision. Like the Chiefs let great talent walk away. Here's the difference, though. The Chiefs have a group of people in their organization that know what they're doing. I don't know if the Bengals have that. And I know they've got, I'm sure, some great people up there. But as of right now, from what I see, you missed the playoffs back-to-back years. I know one was because of an injury, but last year wasn't. And last year was organizational incompetence. If it happens again this year, I don't know, man. I'm starting to lose hope. And that's why I think you pay them both. You don't question it. You make the roster better by having them on the team.
All right, fair enough. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up the radio side?
Not particularly. I hope they get it done.
I hope
they get it all done.
What are you? Okay, what about this? What's more likely? The Reds making the playoffs this year, the Bengals getting to the Super Bowl next year.
Let's repeat it. What's more likely, the Reds making the playoffs,
or the Bengals to get to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the Bengals.
You still think it's Bengals?
Yeah.
You still think it's Bengals? I'd probably take Bengals, but I don't know. There's something about the Reds. I got a feeling this year.
Gambling wise, not close. Reds make the playoffs plus 300. Bengals win the Super Bowl plus 1,700.
Yeah.
So they would lean Reds.
the Reds, I feel like have. Well, I mean, it's the same question, just in a different tone or a different way. Which team has more question marks?
I think the Bengals.
Not if they get extension in terms of outside additions. I would say the Reds. Like
I think
assuming they have Jamar T.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're not assuming that right now. I think under this because nothing's been done yet. So under this as of right now, February 18th, I would say the Bengals have more question marks just because we don't know yet. Now we probably know, but we don't know yet.
The wrinkle being that they missed the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
Because we could say, well, if T's back and Jamar's back and Burrow, okay, they have less question marks. I actually think because they missed the playoffs with those three guys last year and Hendrickson, I think that still leads to a lot of question marks. And it's not about those individuals. It's about what's around them. The Reds, I mean, they didn't go get their power-hitting outfielder. Outside of that, their rotation's very good. I like what they did with their bullpen. They have capable hitters up and down the lineup. Is it a lineup that scares the living daylights out of people? No, but they are a headache to deal with when they get guys on base. I think that the Bengals have more questions than the Reds from that standpoint. So I would have to say I'm more confident that the Reds making the playoffs than the Bengals winning the Super Bowl, because I think the Bengals are good enough to make the playoffs next year.
Yeah.
They missed it by a game. They still 9-8. They were still a 500 team this year. So I'm going to say I'm more confident in the Reds making the playoffs than the Bengals winning the Super Bowl.
The Reds have a lot of questions, but those questions aren't necessarily about who we have, right? I think it's about, like, are they going to be there for the whole year? Like, those are all my
Health
questions.
and, yeah.
Because if I do think that, like, you're not the Reds aren't the Dodgers, they'll never be the Dodgers. But I do think in an NL Central where I don't think it's full of elite talent, I think this roster is good enough to win it. I do. I think the roster is good enough to win it. So I think there are questions for sure. Jacob's right. I mean, there's, can Nick Lodolo be healthy? Can CES be a 30 home run guy?
I mean, even can Ellie do it again?
Can Ellie do it again? Like, there are a lot of questions, but I think those questions aren't a result of the organization. I think it's just guys just stepping up.
Bengals definitely have the better coach, though.
Yeah.
Bengals have the better coach.
Oh, much significantly better.
It's
a joke.
You know what? I disagrey.
Would you rather have Terry Francona
We'll
coach the
agree to
Bengals or
disagree.
Zach Taylor?
I'd rather have Terry Francona coach both.
I think I would rather have Zach Taylor coach the Bengals.
I'd rather have Terry Francona coach the Bengals.
All right, we're out. Appreciate you guys. That wraps it up until tomorrow. Casey, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Casey.
Thank you, guys. Elliot?
I'd like to be the last person to wish you a happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
To the strip club we go.
Everybody tweet at Casey happy birthday.
Last person to wish happy birthday to Casey is me.
He was first and last.
All right, guys. All right. Until tomorrow, this has been Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Appreciate you. Happy birthday, Casey. Bye. Oh, hi. We're back. Not on radio, so we don't have to do radio voice now. We could say things like shit and others, Shout out to Sam LeCure, by the way.
Legend of the game.
And the show.
And the show.
We need to get him back more. But so you released your video yesterday, Elliot. I know we're lining some stuff up here, but I remember going back to that media day, and we got in the in the cage. We were all impressed with your hitting.
I thought my hitting was great.
By the way, when you sent that second clip last night, I didn't really catch. I mean, I was like, yeah, we saw this, and then when I clicked it, I didn't realize that someone made an edit and put that ball has a family. I didn't
Did you like
realize
that?
The edit with John Sadek's voice in the background I thought was cherry on top. So there you go.
All right, so I just emailed it to Casey, so we'll give Casey some time. But yeah, I wanted to post those eventually, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. So I just, let's just do it. I was impressed looking back at the tape.
The pop
of myself in that cage.
Yeah, consistent.
I was very
contact.
impressed. I will say Jacob didn't want to do it.
No.
Jacob didn't want to do it. He didn't want that video. Casey also didn't want to do it. It was myself and Kinner. We were the brave ones. And there was like some people, and I don't know who the guy was throwing to us. He was somebody affiliated with the Reds that was throwing live BP.
It was Hunter Green.
It was.
That's why. That's why I had
Yeah.
Well, no, you had some no name throwing you the ball. Hunter Green stepped in when I was up. That's why I swung and missed a few times. A little embarrassing,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. Years ago when I went, they had Tom Browning was throwing that because I wasn't going to do it either. But then when I heard Tom was in there, I'm like, well, you're not going to miss out on an opportunity to take batting practice from Tom Browning. So
Yeah.
we definitely jumped down there, which was pretty cool. But yes, you and all your athletic glory was on full display, dude. It was awesome.
I think I got great advice from everybody. I think they all said, like, Elliot, you're going to go pro, and I agree with them. But I wanted to showcase Kinner's because we didn't tweet out Kinner's. So this is a first live look in at Kinner's attempt, and you guys can comment who you think had the better BP, Elliot or Kinner.
Oh, we already know this.
Oh, boy.
Not great.
The vest, dude. It was the vest. It was
Not great.
Vests are known for constricting your shoulders.
yeah.
There we go.
End it there. Stop it there. It only gets worse from here.
Oh no!
I
You
told
got to move a little bit in there. You got to be more comfortable.
I told Hunter Green to slow it down, but there we go.
Oh my God! Hey, there's one.
I was like, get me out of here. I'm like, that's how you end it. I was like, get me the hell out of here.
Listen, anytime you want to go play, I think the Cable Dodgers they're looking for players. Me and you will join Reed.
They need some bats.
And we will go play for him this year. And I think Reed's idea was to always have like a camera of him playing third base or catcher wherever he's going to be playing. And I'll have a camera with you, and we'll just be out there. We'll be the outfield guys. I'll be left, you be right.
We're the vibe guys.
That's
right.
right.
It's all about the vibe.
We're just there to bring the orange slices and the drinks after the game.
Orange slices during sporting events, incredible.
It's a fantastic
It's the
time.
best.
Nobody's going to complain about
Yeah,
it.
Everett. He always calls me the vibe guy. I think Everett,
does.
like he's
He
always like
does.
vibes are high when Kinner's here. I think that's what he's always
Something
like,
about the vibes.
Yeah, something about vibes and Kinner always
Yeah.
being great or something, or great when I'm not there. Something along those lines, but it's besides the point. But let's take a look at Elliot doing his thing.
Oh, I didn't send that one.
I thought that was the whole point of it.
No, okay, hold on. That's my Casey, can you go to my Twitter?
I got it.
I sent. You know what I did? I sent the wrong thing. I sent the picture of us instead of my thing. I got my own brain. But that was Kinner. We'll go to Elliot's now. That's my bad.
It's coming up.
For those listening on the podcast, you can hear the sounds of us swinging for 45 seconds.
Are you sending the one with Sadak?
Yeah. Okay, so now here's my professional athleticism. Look at this. Nice little rock. Bang.
Bang.
Boom!
Solid. A+.
I don't think you had one bad.
That was a bad
that
one.
was the worst one.
I had one bad one. I got it right back off this one.
There we go.
Smacked it. I mean, that's a double.
Gotta drop one down here.
Okay.
The fundamentals.
Listen,
It's
they
about
don't teach the fundamentals anymore. You got to drop it down a bunt every once in a while.
You kind of have
They don't
like
teach cursive anymore either.
They don't.
you almost
No,
have
they do.
this.
I think they fixed that. I think they fixed that.
Interesting.
Dude, I mean, the range you have. I mean, you lean down and out, and you weren't waiting for it to come down the middle. You were going after that.
You only get so many pitches. You got to take cracks.
That's the one.
I did think I got shorted one though. I think he said one more. I think I counted 9, and I think I was owed 10.
You have to go out on top, and you did.
I did. But yeah, listen. Credit to you and I. We were the brave ones.
I'm shocked you didn't.
I was shocked that both of them
Not a
did.
baseballer.
I think it would have been much better if we all did it together in unison, but nobody wanted to do it with us.
I was forced to swing a bat already in Chatterbox programming once.
Did you make contact?
Yeah, one time.
Yeah, you made contact with the ball.
There was years ago where I was ripping launch angle, and I said if I hear launch angle to David Bell's mouth one more time, but David Bell was there when we were doing the batting practice or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I'm a nobody. I don't think anyone listens to anything I say. He apparently did, because when he was there when I was doing the batting practice, he said, "Oh, nice launch angle," and then just walked right out.
Yeah.
And that's
pretty funny.
Yeah. That's why I like Terry Francona better. He doesn't make fun of my launch angle.
Have you guys ever gone to a batting cage, like actual batting cage? You go in the automated pitchers thing.
No, but I do want to know this. Jeff Mercer, he's the baseball coach at Indiana now, but he was at Wright State before. And I told him, he was on the show one time, and I said, and Wright State is a very good baseball program or whatever, but I said, I really want to know what it's like to have a 100-mile-per-hour fastball just coming at you. I really want to know the time. I mean, I'm not even mocking this or making fun of it. I can't grasp what that would be like to stand in a box and have a 100-mile-per-hour fastball coming your way.
Scary.
We were lining it up, and then he took the Indiana job, and I never got to go with that. I want to step in the box and have and try to see if I could 10 100-mile-per-hour pitches coming my way. Could I at least foul tip one? Based on that video, I'd say no. But
I tipped it.
So
You're
Reed,
still
when Reed and I went to Chicago, I don't know if that was last year or the summer before. I honestly forget. But when Reed took me to Chicago, we went to there's a place with batting cages in Wrigleyville, and that place rocked. It's like a mini arcade. Sluggers. Thank you.
Sluggers is awesome.
And when we went there, we definitely went to the slow pitch. I didn't want to do it, but I was nervous about it because I don't think I'd taken live BP in a long time. But I'll tell you what, there once you see like those 90-mile-per-hour ones that people use, like at the real batting cages and stuff, you legitimately fear for your life. One little errant thing, and it's hitting you in the shoulder, and you're done. I always remember the scene from like Happy Gilmore when
Ooh, 64 days of the season,
he takes it into the chest,
You're acting like a damn fool.
But it's like I could never. That's why I could like playing baseball. I played baseball until I was a sophomore in high school. I didn't play at Elder. I played like Vizzy Rec League. And it was very fun. But I couldn't handle facing pitchers throwing 80. I was too afraid of the ball. I was too afraid of the ball. Wearing 180 to the back, I don't got it in me. I'd quit.
I would be nervous wreck the whole time. I'd probably like jump out.
Yeah.
It'd be right down the middle, and I'd still feel like it was about to hit me.
Some suggestions in the chat. Why is there no Top Golf batting cages? Because Top Golf's money is the alcohol, and if you're drinking and go stand in a batter's box with 100-mile-an-hour pitches, people will get seriously injured.
They will be injured.
So that's why that doesn't exist. Yeah. I think the next step would maybe be basketball. What about like a Papa Shot type thing?
I think they have basketball.
I thought they were making
That's
one.
wonderful.
Are they fixing the heat?
Yeah, I think that's how we're going to end it because that's outrageous.
Are they locking us in?
I don't know.
Yeah, they're drilling the door to lock us in.
I thought I saw that sign that said closed,
they're drilling the door?
or whatever.
What is going on?
That's wonderful.
All right, that's it. Everybody, we weren't going to end it there, but we have somebody working construction on the outside of this door. And
We'll see you tomorrow.
I don't know what they're doing, honest to God. Everybody have a very...
Deconstructing
What are they doing? What are they doing? We'll have a very pleasant Tuesday afternoon. We'll see you guys later.